Welcome to the Jboy Show, hosted by Jake Crain, the fastest growing sports show in the nation.
I'm Coach Hugh Freeze.
This is Super Bowl champion Brandon Graham.
Hey, this is DJ Shockley, and you're watching.
And thanks for watching the Jboy Show.
Hey, everybody. I appreciate you guys joining us again. Got another great show. Got Blake Ruffino from Are You Serious? We're talking LSU, SEC, the whole landscape. And he's got a prediction of who's going to finish second and third in the SEC West. That is going to make some people in Aggie land a little bit shaky. It's a great interview. We're going to get to that in 1 second after the monologue and after we give a shout out to betonline.ag. Head over there today. The online casino is always open. And if you go there right now, you get a 50% sign-up bonus. You need to do that right now. It's betonline.ag. Whether it's Major League Baseball, NBA playoffs, soccer, anything, parlays, props, however you get down, they're going to have the options for you. And it's fantastic and easy to navigate. And they're going to play the sharps. They're going to put it out early. And they put out their lines for week one, a lot of teams. And we're going to go over that. I got a Jake's take on that and 2 picks that you have to pick and why. That's coming soon. But head over to betonline.ag today and tell them that Jboy sent you. My monologue as we get in the interview with Blake Ruffino from Are You Serious Sports is about LSU's quarterback situation. And it's something that we've talked about a lot. It's been a kind of a hot fire talking point, not only to LSU, but in the SEC and the offseason fodder as we move toward the season. And you have people that are in the Miles Brennan camp and the Max Johnson camp. And I want just to solidify where I am and get where I believe LSU needs to get with the new hires. Because, again, the quarterback is not just the guy that can throw the best or run the best or this, that, and the other. It has to be a fit in the offense to be able to keep the defense honest. So LSU goes and hires Jake Peetz. They hire DJ Mangus. 2 guys that we know are going to have an RPO-heavy offense. You're going to run zone read. You're going to have a nice quarterback run game. You're going to get motion. You're going to get empty. They're going to spread it out, similar to what you saw from Joe Brady a little bit. But you look at the 2 quarterbacks. Max Johnson, a guy that's able to throw the ball. We know Max can throw it. He's a lefty. Yeah, so what? He can throw it. They'll get used to it. But he can also run very effectively. He's a talented runner. He can eat up space. He's able to avoid hits, but he's also not super slight. He's also not super little. Not that you don't want to protect him and go crazy, but it is a perfect fit into Jake Peetz's offense. You could not ask for a better fit or a better style player that, number one, makes good decisions. He's Brad Johnson's son, quarterback's son, coach's son, whatever you want to call it. He understands what he's seeing, and he understands where to go with the ball. Number 2, anytime you run the zone read action or any action where the defense has to account for the quarterback run game, you can dictate typically how the box goes. You know that end has to respect Max Johnson. He does not have to respect Miles Brennan. How frustrating was it, and we talk about this in the interview upcoming as well, from an Auburn perspective, when Auburn was trying to run the zone read with Jarrett Stidham. Everybody and their brother knew that Jarrett Stidham was not going to keep the ball, save a few times. And you're going to make Jarrett Stidham beat you because they know, number 1, you're not going to run him because he's not a great runner. And number 2, you get more prone to injury, especially if you're not a great runner. You know, it's a big difference between Jarrett Stidham running the zone read and Nick Marshall running the zone read. It's got miles, gaps, the Grand Canyon. And Miles Brennan is a good quarterback. He is a good pro-style quarterback. He was doing a good job last year. This isn't saying that Miles Brennan is a bad player. But I think Max Johnson is a better overall player, and without a doubt, without a shadow of a doubt, is the right fit for LSU in this offense. Because having to account for the quarterback as a defensive guy, it's tough to do. You have to literally dictate your game plan around trying to contain the quarterback in the run game too. What does that do? It makes you less aggressive. When you have to put a spy on someone, it affects your coverage. And nothing is more demoralizing. I'm just telling you. Nothing is more demoralizing as a defensive player, as a defensive coach, as a defensive person than to lock somebody up on first down. It's 2nd and 9, 2nd and 10. Lock them up on 2nd down. It's 3rd and 9, 3rd and 10. You got them locked on 3rd and long. Secondary did a great job. trying to stay in your pass rush lane, and the quarterback gets out and runs for 11 and gets a first down. That rips your guts out. Myles Brennan is not doing that, or at least not doing it consistently. Max Johnson can do that consistently. That adds another area that you have to defend. Then you throw in the fact that he is a plus thrower, that he's won in environments, in games. You go to the Florida game, he's got experience. You know he's tough. And you're hearing, and I'll let Blake, kind of talk about this. You're hearing that there may be some separation with Max over Myles. And look, I understand that LSU fans are like, oh, well, I'm afraid Myles is going to transfer. I don't think he'd transfer. I don't think he'd transfer right away. Because if you do it, you better do it quick. And you're going to go to a place with not a lot of time. So it's going to come down to when they announce it. Do they wait until the game to keep it a secret? That's a lot of people do that. That's pretty smart. But when you do name that starter, and, it's going into week 1 or 3/4 of the way through fall camp, that's not a lot of time for somebody to transfer somewhere else and go start and learn a whole new offense and learn a whole new terminology and work with a whole new group of wide receivers and work with a whole new center. A lot goes into that in a whole new place, going to different classrooms, new surroundings. But Max Johnson, if LSU wants to be as good as they can be this year, in this offense with Jake Peetz, Mangus, the whole bunch, Max Johnson needs to be the starting quarterback at LSU. That's my monologue for today. Let's get Blake Ruffino in here and help you guys win the water cooler. All right, everybody, excited to move to the interview portion of today's show. Appreciate you guys checking that monologue out. And excited to bring in a guy. I've been on his show. If you follow LSU, I know a lot of our audience does. You already know who this guy is. Host of Are You Serious? You can find that on YouTube. Does the audio as well sometimes. Mr. Blake Ruffino. Blake, what's up, man?
What's up, Jboy? What's happening, my brother?
Hey, look, another day, another dollar. Excited to get you in here and talk about something that, has really been at the forefront of SEC headlines, obviously in the football offseason, whatever you want to call it, even though it, never ends 365. Where does LSU stand right now in the baseball coaching search? We've heard Vitello. We've heard Pat Casey. I mean, everybody's saying a different thing. You've been calm on this. You've been trying to be a guiding light. Where is the situation right now from what you've heard?
Yeah, so look, just to give a reference, Jay, in reference to how this is kind of unfolded, Mike Bianco was a guy last week that a lot of people said was going to get the job here locally. The media ran with it. He's a former LSU player. He played under Skip Bertman that everybody remembers, but that didn't come to light. He was never offered. Pat Casey, I kind of felt like was a smokescreen because, look, Pat Casey has a lot of baggage. And, look, I'm not saying that Pat Casey shouldn't be a head coach again or he's not going to be a head coach again. What I am saying is LSU is battling Title IX allegations along with being sued for $50 million in a RICO lawsuit. So Pat Casey doesn't really fit that mold. I think that LSU and Vitello is starting to get a little interesting. As I've mentioned, one side says from LSU, no, we're not going to offer him. Some people said that they are going to offer him. What I believe, because these are people that I trust dearly, I don't think that they've offered Vitello, nor do I think that he is going to be the next head coach. Now, that could obviously change in negotiations, especially when you get Jimmy Sexton involved. I do believe that we don't have an answer on this coaching search yet, because I think Scott Woodward wants to hear from Tim Corbin a 2-letter word, and that's no. Or he's going to want to hear him say yes, and then we got a whole different ball game here. Look, Scott Woodward, the new athletic director for a couple years at LSU, has been what we have coined him as the big game hunter. Chris Peterson at Boise State couldn't get poached. He goes to Washington, Scott Woodward. Then he gets Jimbo Fisher. I get that he kind of wanted out, but he still went and got him. Then Kim Mulkey comes down to Baton Rouge, and I get the ties there. However, Scott Woodward has been a guy that has seized, Jake, on, the perfect storms. Look, call it what it is, and I think Vanderbilt just in and of itself, and football especially, has not really spent the money to make that program elite. Now they're putting the forefront of $300 million into athletics. Well, they're doing it in football. Does that take money away from Tim Corbin? LSU baseball is already, and they have the booster support to go and fix Alex Box and do some renovations. Does that change Tim Corbin's mind? But as we've said, hashtag bring the nerd, because people call him a nerd here. I think that they're going to wait until he tells them no. And then if he does, then you'll have somebody else. Or if he says yes, I think that he might be the guy.
Yeah, and again, it's been a very interesting search to this far. I mean, you've heard, Cliff Godwin. You go down the list of names, and my question to you, you obviously have a great pulse of the LSU fan base and kind of understanding what they're looking for, and we know how important baseball is at LSU. When you think of college baseball, LSU, Alex Box, all that, it comes to mind. It's at the forefront because of what they've accomplished in the past. Do fans want a younger guy? Because, Pat Casey's 62 years old. And is it where they want a younger, fresh guy? Tim Corbin's not young either. Not saying he's super old or not going to have success, for a decent amount of time now. But is this something where they want a younger, fresher guy, a Tony Vitello or somebody to come in that can be a long-term solution to what's been a somewhat temporary problem in the rockiness of LSU baseball here lately?
Jay, that's a very good question, and it's interesting because the older fan base that majority of your boosters wanted a guy like a Mike Bianco. They want someone established. They want someone with quote-unquote class. And then the younger generation, everybody that's watching our show and engaging and commenting on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, what have you, they want a guy like Tony Vitello. So you have a standoff. Mm-hmm. And I don't think that Scott Woodward's going to fold to pressure. I don't believe that. But I do think that he knows a pulse of young LSU fan base. The entire fan base was screaming at nauseum for Kim Mulkey, and they got her. And that was a big pulse that he was able to go and do. He was able to get the funding. Jake, they're spending $2.5 for $1 million for a women's basketball coach, and they've never had the success. So I think that he knows the pulse. In my opinion, my generation wants Vitello. They want a guy that has a fan base roaring. They want a guy that, look, he does stuff that's a little unconventional. They want individuals that can come in and change the game. Now, they were pushing for younger coaches. We remember Bo Pelini in football. They wanted him out. They wanted new young blood in here. And Scott Woodward was instrumental in helping Ed with that coaching search for the position coaches and defensive coordinators and offensive coordinator Jake Peets. So I think that you're kind of split. Now, the money usually talks and the other stuff walks. Mm-hmm. So I think that, there will be some say into who the money people want. But I think as a fan base, we polled a lot of our fans, and I think it was around 58 to 60% that those individuals wanted Tony Vitello. So, but the older generation's not on Twitter. And by the way, congratulations on being verified. I feel like, I feel like I should give you the we're not worthy chant.
No, but you already know what it is.
But regardless, I think that there's a split here. And I think that the older generation, the boosters, are going to win that argument at the end of the day.
Yeah, and most of the time the boosters and those alumni are the ones forking over the money. Therefore, they're going to have more of a say. But I can understand the side of the fan base that wants Tony V there. I mean, he does get everybody excited. He does it a little bit different way. I mean, what he's done for Tennessee, just that program, and they needed it. They needed one of the three major sports to actually do something, not only in the regular season, but in the postseason as well.
Right.
And they have. And I'm going to be interested to watch that and see how that plays out. And obviously, you're going to be covering it throughout its entirety, and very interested, like I said, to see how it plays out. But I do want to change gears for a second. Something me and you talked about when I came down there and saw you, and we broke bread. And that was a great time down there in Louisiana. But James Craig, the offensive line coach at LSU, being let go after the spring, kind of a weird time. And without going into specifics, do you think anything, let's say postseason ish or scholarship reductions or something like that is coming? We know who turned him in. I know that you know that. You know that I know that. But do you see something coming down the pipe that could hinder LSU in the postseason, or since they let him go and let him push the float down the river, I guess to say, do you think it's just kind of a wash your hands of it?
All I'm going to say very quickly on that is I hope that churches in South Carolina, especially Clemson, don't get investigated. Anyway, what I'm going to say there is that I like Brad Davis a lot. Okay, as a former collegiate offensive lineman, I've known Brad Davis I think, Jay, with as crazy as it sounds, that they actually got a better coach. And I like James Craig. I like what he did. I actually think that he gets a little bit of a and I don't know how to say it other than people just didn't like the development. And I can understand that. But look at the 2019 offense. Now, a lot of people said, oh, they shouldn't have won the award for the best O-line in the country 19 because of Burrow. But I'm like, look, guys, they're sending 6 guys in a 5-man protection. But Jay, the recruiting part of James Craig is what hurt him a lot. You have to be able to get depth on the offensive line. If you look at studies, both lines of scrimmage have more players injured than any other position in football. Yeah. So you have to be able to get the good recruits and have the depth. In reference to any kind of postseason ban or anything really coming from the NCAA or SEC or anything like that, I do not believe it's going to come.
Yeah.
I think because of the stuff that is going on with Will Wade and the investigation that has a lot of eyes on LSU, the problem has been they're investigating anything. Now, with them being on campus, if that's what they're going to find, that sounds good to me. And no, so I don't think there's going to be anything that goes on. And I think they got a better coach and recruiter in Brad Davis. But I like James Craig. I hate that happened to him, but I think he's going to get another job here soon.
Yeah, and Brad Davis, the former Arkansas offensive line coach, getting hired at LSU basically within the same day. And I'll say this, anybody that Sam Pittman hires to coach the offensive line, I promise you knows what the hell that they're doing. Because, Coach Pittman is one of the best offensive line coaches that there is.
No doubt.
And for him to entrust Brad Davis to do that, LSU's obviously picking up a guy, not only is a good coach, but is a pretty good recruiter as well. And when you look at this team, and I want to get to, your expectations, at least where we are right now, y'all have got a heck of a quarterback battle going on, and your thoughts, and me and you've talked about this a lot off the air, and I want to share those conversations here. And I've said it repeatedly, and every time I talk about LSU, I say it. I look at this Jake Peetz and Mangus offense, and I look at the RPO. I look at keeping defenses honest on the zone read and the quarterback being a threat to run. And it seems to me to be a lot better fit in what Max Johnson can do, not only with his arm, but with his legs. And not that Miles Brennan isn't a good quarterback, but hell, it's hard to fit a square peg in a round hole. Am I wrong?
No, you're not wrong. And shout out to my good friend Cody Kennedy, former Southeastern lineman and teammate of mine, who's new O-line coach at Arkansas.
Yeah.
But I agree with you. Jake, three letters, right? RPO. And that is the reason why, and that's what we've talked about off air. That's the reason why I just cannot envision Miles Brennan starting over Max Johnson. I continue to watch this spring game with Jake Peetz. Now, they didn't run a lot, but they did kind of have a little troll in reference to a play that they ran. It was a play out of Alabama's playbook where Jake Peetz was at with Sark and Lane and things like that. And it was run by Max Johnson. Of the 3 RPOs in the spring game that LSU ran, 3 touchdowns, all by Max Johnson. It's what he wants to do. And look, everybody knows that the RPO game is not, a quarterback historically doesn't run. However, tell that to a defensive end when he's coming in and he has to read. True. Is it going to be a zone read? And then the backer that's on the backside, what is he going to do? Especially from a left-handed quarterback. You saw that with Tua Tagovailoa. You don't have an option if you're a defensive end on what you're supposed to technically do and why the RPO game is so crucial. You have to make split decisions and you have to have a game plan of what you're going to do. So Miles Brennan, and we saw them run multiple RPOs with Miles Brennan against Mississippi State and Missouri, and nobody respected Miles Brennan. God bless his soul. But nobody respected what he was doing.
Auburn tried to do it with Jared Stidham, Blake. I don't mean to cut you off, but I watched Gus Malzahn try and do that with Jared Stidham. And for the whole season, the end was just crashing the mesh and hitting the back. They did not think that Stidham was going to pull it. One of the few times where he did pull it, he had a 20-yard touchdown against Alabama because they just guessed he wasn't going to pull it. But if you can't run, they're not going to respect it because it's not going to hurt them. And continue. I didn't mean to cut you off, but it drives me nuts because you put the defensive end, what the RPO does, you can put multiple people in conflict at the same time. And if we're talking about a 4-2-5, I can put the defensive end and the nickel in conflict at the exact same time if the quarterback
Absolutely.
can play it right and read it right. So I, again, continue, but it just blows my mind when guys try to think that defensive coordinators are stupid enough to not say, well, I know Miles Brennan isn't about to keep the ball for, 50% of the time or even 30% of the time. So why would I not just crash the mess with the end? And I can loop with the backside backer if I want to most of the time if I read it. Why would I not do that?
You mean to tell me Nick Saban's not in a meeting room in the game week that he's about to play LSU and says, yes, let Miles Brennan gain 30 yards on us running the football. And look, he did that with Joe, and it bit him on the backside, okay? But you have to respect the fact that when you have a quarterback that throws the ball and it's predominantly a pocket quarterback, you have to respect that they're not going to pull it and they're going to throw that thing. Mm-hmm. But even to the Auburn fans, if you might remember this, Jake, in 2018, when LSU, I think it was on the first play that they ran an RPO and Grant Delpit had the interception on the first series of the game. LSU, and I know this for a fact, Dave Aranda did not respect Jarrett Stidham pulling the ball and running it. Grant Delpit goes down on the flat for an interception. LSU goes down and scores on a wildcat from Clyde Edwards-Helaire. That's the part of this RPO game. If you don't have a guy that's not mobile, it's not going to work. And LSU tried to beat it over the head. And look, I get the defense was bad against State, but it was the reason why that offense was stagnant, because they kept running the RPO and nobody respected it. I will say this. The one game and that everybody will remember with Max Johnson in Florida did not have an answer for the RPO game. And a guy like Kayshon Boutte emerges after Terrace Marshall, opts out, and so does Eric Gilbert. They don't have an answer. So I think that Max Johnson, I'm going to tell you this, I do hear some things about him separating himself right now from Miles Brennan. Mm-hmm. So even regardless of what happens, I do think that Max gives you the best chance to win, even if Miles decides to transfer if he's not the starter.
Yeah, that plays perfectly into my monologue. It's about Max Johnson needs to be the guy in that same conversation that we're having. And, when you look at this roster, and my last question kind of for LSU here, and I want to move on and talk a little SEC and landscape overall. When you look at this team, obviously last year with the pandemic, Bo Pelini not teaching zone coverage a lot, which blows my mind. It made, Mississippi State look like the greatest show on turf in week one, and everybody was freaking out. But when you look at this team, I know they're pissed. We know they're talented. They brought in fresh blood on the coaching staff. I like the Durante Jones hire. I really do. I think he's going to get his feet wet. There may be a few bumps in the road early, but I know those guys want to play for him. Is this LSU team talented enough? And again, look, it's hard to pick against Nick Saban in Alabama. We know what Texas A&M is doing. Ole Miss is scary as hell. Arkansas, Auburn's got a new coach in. You don't know what to expect. But is this team overall talented enough to be able to win it?
Yeah, Jay, they're very talented. And here's another thing that I always ask myself in the beginning of a season. With a talented team, how much does experience matter? They lost a lot of experience in 2019. It didn't translate in 2020. But now LSU has 33 guys, Jay, that have had an SEC start. You bring guys in like Mike Jones. Who? Mike Jones. Some people in our generation will remember that. But Mike Jones, who started at Clemson, he comes down and he's going to be a starter. So 33 guys that have a start against an SEC team. I think the experience along with the talent can make LSU a possible 9, 10, maybe even 11-win team, depending on how it goes out. Both lines of scrimmage return. The crazy thing about this is you have the number one recruit in the nation that just committed or just signed with LSU and is here now in Mason Smith per Rivals. He's your third string defensive tackle.
Yeah.
And so that's scary in and of itself. And I think that this D-line, I'm not going to coin them and say they're going to be this good, but they remind me from a depth perspective of that Clemson D-line at 18. They have some serious potential on the D-line with guys like Ali Gay, who emerged there at the end. You have a guy like Ojulari, whose brother was at Georgia, who just got drafted. He's a speed demon. And then you have the guys in the interior. Jaquelin Roy, who's a big-time recruit, emerged late in the season and got 2 huge sacks against Kyle Trask that pretty much, if you want to call it the game winner, other than Mark Wilson throwing the shoe, it was those 2 sacks in the red zone. So I think that they'll be good a lot better defensively just because of the experience. But I'm going to tell you something. This secondary is going to be lethal. I am the president and CEO of the J Ward fan club, and he knows it. And every time I put that, he retweets it. So J Ward, shout out to you. They have some really long corners. You have Derek Stingley back with Elias Ricks. They have a lot of guys that can cover. I like what Durante Jones is doing in the back end. They bring Corey Raymond and Durante Jones into the same meeting room. For whatever reason, Dave Aranda split the safeties and corners up, which was kind of chaotic, but they're back together. They're on the same thing. Jay, they were getting confused in man-to-man coverage.
Yeah, that
like,
can never happen.
How are you getting confused in man-to-man coverage? So I think the communication gets better, and they're very talented, but the experience for me is the biggest thing.
Yeah, no doubt. And getting confused in man coverage. I mean, I understand we used to do it too. We used to have a switch call or a place call where if the splits by the wide receivers were tight enough and we're offset, because you never want two DBs to be on the same plane at the same time. That's how you get rubbed to death. But we would say, all right, if we get off the snap and they switch, or we get some type of crossover route, we can switch it. We have to communicate it, but that's it. I mean, man coverage is not hard. I mean, we call it cat coverage. I got this cat, you got that cat, I got that cat. We used to say he goes up. If he runs a slant, you guard him. If he runs a vertical, you guard him. If he goes up and goes to the bathroom, you hand him the toilet paper and wait for him. So it shouldn't be that hard. But Blake, moving on, when you look at the SEC and the overall landscape of what we have going into 2021, we have a spring practice. We have a summer. We're going to have a normal fall camp. You're not having to go through all the protocols that you did, and it's kind of back to normal. I'll start with the SEC East. We'll work our way back to the West. Georgia is a heavy favorite. How do you see Georgia and the East playing out? And do you believe that Georgia has enough talent and the roster is right enough and it's ripe enough for them to have a chance to win their first national championship since 1980?
Jay, I'm not going to say national title because I think, a lot of people had the questions with LSU in 19. Until you do it, until you do it, I'm not going to believe it type of deal. But are they going to be conservative? I don't think it's the talent. I really don't. I mean, look, they got the talent all across the board. They're a very talented team. Look, at the end of the day, we've seen that, maybe stars don't always matter, but majority of times, that you're getting talented guys. The question is, does Kirby Smart stay conservative? The joke here about Kirby Smart, and especially being 0-2 against Ed, is the simple fact that people call him the Les Miles of the SEC East, because even though he's not power eye, toss dive, he's still really conservative. Can that offense get to a point where they just open it up? Now, if they do, with JT Daniels, who I think, quite honestly, I might be higher than some on him, who I think maybe outside of Spencer Rattler could be your overall top pick in the draft.
I'd throw him and Matt Corral in there.
You can even throw Corral. That is a part to me that if they open it up, I think it is completely a one-sided affair. I don't think Florida's got it. I don't trust Emory Jones. I don't trust their lines of scrimmage. I don't trust their secondary. I don't trust Ty Grantham right now, if we're being honest.
Yeah.
The sleeper team for me in the East, and I can't believe, and Jay, the entire week that LSU played this team in Missouri, I said, watch out for Connor Bazelak. Watch out for Connor Bazelak. And I got ripped to shreds. So part of me, even though I'm pissed off in a loss from LSU, I'm kind of like, I told you to watch Connor Bazelak. Put some respect on that man's name. I think it's going to be interesting to watch Missouri. Can they win a game that they're not supposed to? When you have a good quarterback that can make some throws, I always see that. Now, Kentucky scares me from an LSU perspective, but scares me. Look, they snap the ball, they line up and say, hey, we're running 32 power. Stop it, big boy. And from a former O-lineman, I love that to death. But I just don't think that they can compete with the big boys. So, to me, Georgia in the East, I think I've said this on my show, Jay, it's my lock of any conference, any division. it's my lock that they come out of the SEC East,
Yeah.
no questions asked.
Yeah, I would be shocked. It would take, a minor miracle. And that says a lot about Georgia, but I think it says a lot about the East as well. And, I have Kentucky finishing second. And Missouri, to me, I'm with you. Connor Bazelak, when I ranked the top 3 quarterbacks in the league, he was number 3 for me. It was Corral, JT Daniels, and Connor Bazelak was number 3. And I don't worry about Missouri offensively. They got to replace a lot on that front 7. You know as well as I do, being an offensive lineman, how good Nick Bolton really was at Mike last year for Missouri. He covered a lot of deficiencies on that team and on that defense and made a whole hell of a lot of plays, especially in the red zone.
Absolutely.
So replacing that front 7, I think that's their biggest mark. And I'm interested to see Kentucky. You talk about them being basically a wildcat offense, which is what they were. Now with Bo Allen, new OC in there, I think they may try and throw it around. Look, anything they do through the air is going to be icing on the cake from what they've done. I mean, it was,
Right.
it was a glorified glory road on NCAA Dynasty when you're the running back and your high school team runs triple option. I mean, that's literally what it was. But I think Kentucky's going to finish second in the East, in my opinion. But I think Florida, I would not be shocked if Florida finished 4th in the East. I would not be shocked at that.
I wouldn't be either.
And, people will say, whoa. And it shows you how important, and it's amazing to be able to say this, that week 2, Missouri and Kentucky play each other. And I'll be damned, Blake, if that's not going to be an important game. And if you'd have told me that not even that far in the past, I would have called the insane asylum that was closest to you after asking Siri where it was.
What's interesting, even with Kentucky, anytime you go to Kentucky, especially, and LSU fans will tell you this, the Bluegrass Miracle and then getting beat in 07. Look, there's always shout out Dickie Lyons, by the way, former wide receiver there. But I like Kentucky. I think that you're right. It's icing on the cake if they can throw it around. But I don't think that, I feel like it's just so far of a gap between Georgia and everybody else. I wouldn't be surprised if they do separate themselves, especially, Jay, if they find a way to beat Clemson. Mm-hmm. I think that is the showdown of opening week. Can they find a way? And if they do, then watch out. I think that you're on to something that they can win a natty. But again, I just can't foresee anybody else winning the East. But I've been wrong before, but I don't think I'm going to be wrong on this one.
No, I don't think you are either. And moving to the West as we wrap up here with Blake Ruffino, host of Are You Serious? Great LSU podcast. Great, always putting out content. Insider sources. Been one of the few guys that has been on the straight and narrow in this coaching search, the baseball coaching search for LSU, as it kind of goes left, right, and down the center. But Blake, when you look at the West, and again, I'm not betting against Saban. I have Alabama winning the West, even though they're replacing a lot. But I think it's going to be a rocky adventure through the SEC this season for them. New quarterback, and I like Bryce. I'm interested to see how much Bryce Young runs. But when you look at the West, give me your finishing order. Give me your top 3.
My top 3, and I'm going to go 1A, 1B here. And this is because, look, I'm not going to really vote against Nick or bet against Nick. Mm-hmm. They do have some question marks. Bryce Young only having 22 passing attempts last season. That's not enough to me to say that he's the best quarterback in the SEC West right now.
I agree.
So I'm going to say Alabama, and I'm going to put LSU right there. I do think that LSU has the experience and talent, but Jay, who scares the absolute piss out of me.
Can I guess?
Yes.
Ole Miss.
No question.
Yeah.
They scare the bejesus out of me, because I feel like they can score with anybody. Now, can they stop anybody? I don't know that. And I don't think that they can, quite honestly. They're going to have a couple recruiting classes for them to start stopping people defensively. Mm-hmm. But, man, if that team doesn't score, 35, 40 points a game, I'd be shocked. So, especially having, if you have to go to the Grove, if you got to go there, man, it makes me feel uneasy. Jay, it was the same thing I was saying in 19 about LSU playing Auburn before the Alabama game. Mm-hmm. Derek Brown, that defensive line scared the bejesus out of me. Look, Ole Miss, I think they're going to find a way to beat a team they shouldn't.
I agree.
I pray to God it's Alabama, because the troll job that Lane Kiffin would give to Nick Saban would be ungodly, and I'm here for it. But I think that they're going to find a way to beat a team that they shouldn't. And that is the team that, quite honestly, scares me the most, even more than Bama. And I can't believe I'm saying that. but from a team that you might not supposed to lose to. Like, you feel like you always you're maybe behind the 8 ball when you face Alabama, but not Ole Miss. And that's a team that scares me the most going into this season, because they have a really good quarterback returning. Look, he threw 6 picks. Lane said, run your happy butt back out there and just keep humming that thing. Yeah. Matt Corral scares me. We'll see what they do. But I have 1-8 Alabama, LSU, and then I have Ole Miss.
That's going to get some interesting response right there. The Texas A&M fans, I can't wait to see that response. We got a big Texas A&M base. And look, Blake,
DM me, bro. That's all I got to say. DM me, bro.
I love it. But no, if Ole Miss gets a couple stops on defense, or they get a couple turnovers with that offense, they can beat a lot of people, because I've said it before and I'm going to say it again. The triangle of Matt Corral, Jeff Lebby, and Lane Kiffin is scary. I don't think there is better chemistry between an OC, a quarterback, and a head coach than those 3 guys right there. And I think that's going to be the difference as well with JT Daniels, Todd Monken, and Kirby Smart. And that's why Kirby, I think, is going to open it up. And I think that's going to make the difference at the end. And, again, if they don't get in cover 2 on 3rd and 26, that'll help as well. But that's neither here nor there. But Blake, last question for you, my friend. Of the new coaches, Clark Lee at Vandy is what it is. They're trying to get it together over there. But I wanted to ask you, as a guy that covered TJ Finley, and, we've broken down TJ Finley in his game, right? When he transferred to Auburn and stuff like that. What is Auburn getting in TJ Finley? And how do you see Brian Harsin and Bo Nix and that Auburn team doing in year 1?
So let me say this. I've known TJ for a long time. I mean, look, you were there. I mean, he's from the same hometown that you were at. And so I think that TJ is very raw. He has the ability. And look, he's a 4.0 student. The kid is extremely intelligent for whatever reason. And, say what it is. People say that he's not. And the kid is highly intelligent and highly smart. Can Brian Harsin and that coaching staff find a way to help him with his footwork, to help him with his release, and so small things that he can fix? Can TJ push Bo Nix? I don't know that.
Not this year. I don't think this year he pushes him. I mean, not that he doesn't push him, but that he could overtake him.
Yeah, I don't think he overtakes him, but it is scary to me. I don't want to face that dude, okay? Because we saw when that kid got hot against Alabama, when he got hot against South Carolina, and when he got hot against Arkansas, there was no stopping him. I mean, it was bam. The first half against Alabama, it was a blowout. But look, you can talk to Pete Golden, shout out to him, former coach of Southeastern. He will tell you that TJ was lighting him up and was making throws that he didn't think could happen. Can he continue to develop? I like Brian Harsin a lot. I think that he's going to be able to bring Auburn in a direction that maybe they haven't been in a while. He's done good in recruiting so far. My thing is can he get depth on both lines of scrimmage? And I always will talk about that. Tackle is a position they got to get depth at, Jay.
Have to.
If they can find a way to get some more depth and win up front. Look, the best. Think if Auburn had a competent offense, and I don't mean this in the wrong way, in 2019 with that D-line and the pressure that they put on people, they held what we believe and what I believe the best offense in my lifetime in the LSU 2019 offense to 23 points, Jay.
Yeah.
That team was scary.
And Gus caught a lot of flack for that, for the offense not coming through, because defensively they were good enough to win a national championship. They really were. They
were so good. In my opinion, they were the best defense that LSU saw and in the country. That's my opinion. I've been on record saying that. And look, he should have gotten flack for that. But can they just find a way, because they can get the talent? I think Brian Harsin, if he can just roll the wave and continue to recruit hard, he can be one of those guys that gets them back on top. And I think he's one a really good coaching hire for Auburn.
Yeah, and I know you're referring to the portal and recruiting and what he's been able to do defensively with Derek Mason, and we talked about that hire and Mike Bobo and that hire. And again, year one, you never know. I mean, year one with Gus Malzahn, they went to the national championship. Now,
that's true.
Nick Marshall was a witch of the highest order. Speaking of RPOs, we can go to write a Harry Potter book on how many RPOs they ran with Nick, inside, outside, wide, short, all that stuff. But Blake, man, it's great to talk to you, buddy. We're going to obviously do this this again as we get closer and monitor this LSU baseball search and them trying to come back and get back to glory and being motivated in the offseason, something that Ed Orgeron's fantastic at. But tell everybody where they can find you on social media and where they can find your content. If you're an LSU fan that is not following Blake Ruffino, please wake up. It's 2021. Let's figure it out, guys.
Yep, AYS Sports across the board, Jay. I appreciate you having me on. Jake Johnson, coach at Arizona, his name's starting to heat up a little bit. So let's see what happens there for this baseball coaching search. Follow us on YouTube. Hit the subscribe button. We just got monetized, so I'm really excited about that. I'm like raising the roof. You got verified on Twitter. It's a big week here in the SEC, Jay.
Yeah.
So they can follow us there, man. I appreciate you having me on.
Definitely, buddy. We'll do this again soon. Everybody go check out Blake Ruffino. We appreciate you guys checking us out as well. Subscribe on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, or hit the dislike button if you don't like it. I mean, as long as you're engaging, I'm good with that. But make sure you head to thejboyshow.com too. Grab some of that merchandise. It's been another edition of The Jboy Show, and we're going. Go on.
The Jboy Show is produced by David Cohn, Technical Director Dave Hammock, Creative Director David Culbertson, Audio Engineer Feyzan Shareef, Production Assistants Blaine Crain and Kyle Orr, Executive Producers Jake Crain, Vince Thompson, Steve Chamberlain, and David Cohn. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel and visit our website, thejboyshow.com, for updates regarding our newest apparel and merch designs. Win the water cooler with The Jboy Show.